Has the Supreme Court's judgment in the Enforcement Directorate's case now deflated the opposition's attack that the ED was being misused by the government of the day? Joining me on the Newstrack tonight, representing the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, its national spokesperson and senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Nalin Kohli. Pinky Anand joins us, former additional Solicitor General. We've got Karnail Singh, former head of the Enforcement Directorate. Adil Singh Boparai joins us from the Congress Party, and Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in the Supreme Court. Adil Singh Boparai, I'll start with you. Given the litany of charges levelled by the opposition, led by the Congress, against the Enforcement Directorate, would you concede that the Supreme Court judgment today has really deflated a lot of the sound and the fury that the opposition was flinging at the government? Now, the ED and the government can just turn around and say, look at what the Supreme Court has said and stay shut. Let the agency do its job. Adi.
Well, Mr. Kanwal, firstly, you're conflating multiple issues. The fact that the Enforcement Directorate is selectively leaking investigation details to the media by itself, ipso facto, demonstrates that the objective of the ED is to sully the good name of the Congress, but be that as it may, the viewers and the country is watching. Now, coming to the Supreme Court judgment, the Supreme Court was adjudicating on certain challenges with regard to the amendments of 2018 and 19. We respect the judgment of the Supreme Court. However, we do believe, and we do sincerely believe, that the Supreme Court should have indeed delved into the consistent and the malicious pattern in which the ED has been deployed against opposition leaders. Now, one specific, how is it that the moment the opposition leaders switch their allegiance to the BJP, the ED cases go into the cold storage? How is it that the ED is only used against opposition leaders? Now, we have statistics, and I happen to see your Twitter feed. You have put out statistics that there has been a meteoric rise in the use of ED and the registration of the cases. But what is the conviction rate? The conviction rate is a dismal 23 cases since 2002. So what does this demonstrate? The ED has become a tool in the hands of the BJP to silence its critics and its dissenters. Now, coming to the Supreme Court judgment, there are several issues. It's a 545-page judgment. We respect the judgment. However, we did expect that given that this government is anchored in vendetta, this government is anchored in malicious prosecution, there was a necessity to have safeguards. Safeguards which protects the rights and liberties of individuals.
Okay, let Nalin Kohli respond to your many points, starting with selective leaking of investigation details, one-sided attacks on members of the opposition, virtually no one in the BJP or its allies is being probed, and that this is a government and an agency anchored in vendetta. Let's take a first response from Nalin Kohli.
I'll answer that later. I'd first like to point out that we have a judgment by a three-judge bench on a batch of almost 240 cases. And the Honorable Supreme Court is a court that will adjudicate matters on legal positions in terms of the constitutional validity of any section or act, not based on any political party's desires on what it should adjudicate and how it should adjudicate. So the Congress party is this double-edged thing. We respect it, but they should have seen it. I would respectfully say is an incorrect position in both law and expectation. First things first. The Act itself is not a creation of the BJP. The Act itself is there to basically check money laundering and to check proceeds of crime. All the things that have been raised today have been put to rest. So I think we should stop the politicization of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which is an important act in the fight against black money, slush money and corruption. And the second part of it is that the Congress party or opposition parties should actually answer clearly before maligning both the Act as also the agency, that in every case where there has been a raid, is there not prima facie material which reported in the media that shows the existence of black money or proceeds of crime? 20 crore rupees in one case, 21 crore rupees in another case. These are not small sums of
No,
money.
sure, but you must respond to Adil's charge that this is
Anybody who's
selectively being done against
investigated-
members of the opposition. Nobody from the BJP or the allies seem to get raided.
Yeah, sure, Rahul, but you'll have to give me the courtesy of answering in the manner that I would like to answer. No? Sure. I would build my case as I would prefer to build it, not in the manner in which my Congress colleagues would like me to build it. So, and that was going to be where I was leading it to, so I've lost the flow of it, so I'm going to start exactly where I left. That each one of those cases shows the existence of a proceed of crime or at least unexplained large quantities of cash. Unexplained huge quantities. Now the fundamental is people in public office, in this case several opposition leaders, with limited means as per their own income tax records, if they have unexplicable things, the answer cannot be a sort of a perverse expectation of Article 14. That, oh, till you don't raid somebody in the BJP, till then you can't be saying that these are correct. These are correct in their own right. They should be complemented. You have a problem, B has a problem, C has a problem, go file a private complaint. Who has stopped you to take evidence and go and file a private complaint in the court? Are the courts all under section 200 of the CRPC? Are the courts and the judges in the pocket of the BJP? Number two, let's come to the Sonia Gandhi case which has been raised. In all these years, the 10 years that this case has been there prior to the Narendra Modi government coming, what answer have they given to the fact that a political party is funding a company? I mean, our political party is to act as banks, and then this whole funding should lead to the takeover of that company by an entity owned by the Gandhi family.
Okay, so let me put that question to Sanjay Hegde. This is to do with your response on private citizens or anybody from the opposition filing a complaint. If you think that anybody in the BJP or in the government, Sanjay Hegde, is corrupt, you think the ED is not doing its job properly, Nalin Kohli challenges you to file a complaint in the SCO in any court and act on that complaint like Subramaniam Swamy did so often, virtually forcing the agency into a particular direction, even though at that time the agency didn't want to go. What's stopping members of the opposition and members of civil society who think the BJP or members of the BJP are corrupt from going and filing a private complaint?
Well, Rahul, firstly, please do not compare me to Subramaniam Swamy. That I don't know whether it is a scheduled offense or not. But be that as it may, I am not concerned with the politics of it. I am concerned with the constitutional questions which the Supreme Court has answered today and upheld several parts of this of the Act itself. Somebody just now spoke about that 20 crore which was recovered in one case. Just let me illustrate for the benefit of your viewers what happened. The lady was somebody called Arpita Mukherjee. Now just let's assume that you or I happen to buy a property from Arpita Mukherjee 2-3 days before this thing came about. The ED would then say that these are proceeds of crime. Go on to attach that property. I would not have even a remedy of filing an appeal because the PMLA appellate tribunals are not yet constituted. Most of them are unmanned. What is essentially happening is that there is a very harsh law which has been today upheld constitutionally by the Supreme Court. Somebody said that the essence of tyranny is the ability to make a harsh law and to use it selectively against your enemies. So you should recollect, your viewers will recollect the recent Maharashtra case where many of the people who went off to Guwahati said, look, we have ED problems and this is one way of doing a Ganga Snan. I would not conflate today's judgment with any of today's politics. Please keep all the politics aside. What today's judgment has done has to make the ED from a clawed tiger to a tiger with fangs and which can be a man-eater at times. I really fear that we are descending into a police state.
Okay, let Pinky Anand respond. Man-eating tiger, India descending into a police state, a harsh law being used selectively, and the fact that the number of cases, which used to be about 220 odd in the early 2010, like just few years after that, now has gone up to 1,180. So there's a big jump in the number of cases being filed by the ED respond to all of what Sanjay Hegde just said. Pinky Anand. Pinky Anand? Give me a moment as I try and fix that connection with Pinky Anand. And let me in the meanwhile put that question to Karnail Singh. As a former director of the Enforcement Directorate, your response to the charge that ED could become a man-eating tiger, that India is becoming a police state, that a harsh law is being used selectively. How do you respond to what the likes of Sanjay Hegde are saying?
See, the first we have to understand why internationally money laundering is considered to be the offense which has to be dealt with. See, I'll give you an example. Suppose the two persons are going to do business. One with the proceeds of crime and one without the proceeds of crime. One has a white money. The person with the proceeds of crime, his intention is only to conceal the origin of the money he has obtained. So what he is ready to business at par or with the loss also, because his purpose is different. The person with the actual money, the white money, when he does the business, he certainly needs certain profit out of it. Otherwise, nobody will do the business. But when the products of both goes into the market, who wins? The person with the bad money wins. And therefore, it is not the people who are doing money laundering. They are getting benefited. By the process, what you are doing is the people who are good citizens of the country, they are going to be losing in their business activities. I can cite many examples, but it will take a lot of time. Why the money laundering is considered to be one of the most heinous offense against the society. It is not the offense against the individual, it is against the society. It is against the nation. And therefore, stringent laws are required to deal with it. The people are indulging in corruption, taking away the huge government money and putting into their businesses and corrupt practices. And this money is not going to the public for their benefit. And therefore, these people have to be dealt properly. What Supreme Court has done is it has 555 pages judgment, and they have examined each and every aspect of the legislation. They have gone in depth about all the sections, section 3, section 50.
This is an important counter, that in each instance where the ED has gone in, look at the kind of evidence that has been recovered, the mountain of cash recovered from the likes of Arpita Mukherjee. You can't take away from the fact, and while the probe is still ongoing and we await a judicial verdict, that just 21 crores lying around in cash seems terribly wrong. And so what if she's associated and member of the Trinamool Congress and they seem to have joined flats? Does that not need to be probed? And Nalin's point that if somebody has a case or a complaint as a private citizen, you can file the complaint if you think that the agencies aren't doing their job. What's stopping you or anybody in the Congress from doing that?
Kanwal Saab, with utmost deference, it is hardly a retort or a counter. It is nobody's case that money laundering should not be investigated. Let me be very clear. It is nobody's case. Neither mine, nor Mr. Kohli, nor Mr. Karnail Singh's case. The problem is with malicious and differential application of law. Now, since Mr. Karnail Singh was kind enough to give an example, let me give a counter example. There were ED notices sent to 17 MLAs from the Shiv Sena who owed their allegiance to the Shinde faction. Now that Ghar Wapsi of sorts has happened, and now that they've joined hands with the BJP, will the ED follow through on those 17 ED investigations or 17 notices? Will the ED
that's the problem, Nalin Kohli. The fact that 17 MLAs get a notice, they are in the Shiv Sena now, and this is the Shinde Sena, and they're on your side, then suddenly the government agencies seem to go slow. Take, for example, what happened in the case of Suvendu Adhikari. That's a CBI case, but while he was being probed in the Narda case, others like Madan Mitra are in jail. Suvendu Adhikari is levelling charges against Mamata Banerjee, accusing her of corruption, whereas he has charges against him which were being probed when he was in the Trinamool, and suddenly nothing seems to be happening now that he's in the BJP and he's your star campaigner and your chief in West Bengal, Naren Kohli.
So ask the ED. I'm not the spokesperson and I'm neither running the ED, but I can certainly as a lawyer make an intelligent guess is not very complicated. That in any investigation, it's not going to run on the basis of whether what somebody else wants. It will run on the basis of evidence. There are many cases
No, but
in
if
which
it's
there
the
will be a
same
prima
charge
facie
against
case,
people like
but as you
Madan
go
Mitra and
deeper into
Shuvendu
the investigation, there is
Adhikari,
an
one
answer.
person ends up in jail, the other isn't even questioned, and it's the same charge. I have no idea that the charge is true or not, but I know that it's the same charge, and one got acted against and the other didn't. One is in the BJP, the other isn't.
Yeah, so that is also a happy coincidence. So good thing that the person who's corrupt didn't join the BJP. That's your straightforward answer. We are very happy about that. So the man who probably obviously was the kingpin or was acting on it has gone on the other side. So as simple as that. So just because the corrupt person is in jail means that the BJP is at fault. That would be an ingenuous argument.
Can Nalin and the BJP get away by calling this a happy coincidence?
Why should I not call it a happy coincidence?
Mr.
Why
Kanwal,
shouldn't I call it a happy coincidence?
The second
Mr.
time
Kanwal,
I'll give you a counter argument. I'll give you a counter
Sanjay
argument.
Hegde, please.
I
Sanjay,
am
everybody
sat on
speaks
this
together.
script. 1 minute, Rahul.
This is
I'll
then
answer it. I'm not running away.
democracy.
Mr.
One
Hegde.
second, I can't have everyone
Mr.
speaking
Hegde.
together. Nalin Kohli,
Mr.
you've
Hegde,
just
I'll
spoken,
answer
you
this.
made a
Hold on.
point. Let Sanjay
No, one
Hegde
minute,
respond.
exactly.
I'll
So
come
let me
back to you
finish
for
my
a counter.
point.
Sanjay.
No, 1 minute, let me finish my other point.
Yes.
And I'll give you another example so that it's clear. For the last 3 days, people are saying Dr. Hemanto Biswa Sarma, the BJP used to attack him. It used to raise questions about his one scam. And the BJP, the minute he joined, it's over. Why don't people go and do their homework? He got exonerated by a court taking on the BJP. When he is exonerated, comes to the party separately, then people don't do their homework and start making an allegation. That's why I use the words very carefully. People should do their homework before they start making wild allegations.
Okay, Sanjay Hegde.
Well, my response would be that classic James Bond line. The first time can be happenstance. The second time can be coincidence. The third time is definitely enemy action. You have seen the ED in place after place continually taking its targets. I am not concerned. Please get every politician, and the next time the other lot comes in, they'll go after the other set, and it will make a lot of work for lawyers. I'm very happy with that. What I am, however, concerned is with the ordinary citizen who, it was not a BJP politician or a Congress politician who went to the challenge the constitutionality before the Supreme Court. These were ordinary citizens who had explanations and who had doubts about the law and the constitutionality of the manner that it was being operated, who went to the court, and and all those avenues have been shut down today by the court. What I really fear is not these showpiece investigations. That both sides are powerful enough, they will shout on television studios, they will fight in the streets. I'm speaking of, like I gave you that example, forget the TMC people. If somebody had bought a property from one of them, unknowingly, somebody who's taken a bank loan, but yet that property could be considered the fruits of crime, that would also be stuck in the investigation. There would be an attachment, and there would not really be any effective legal recourse. So what will that lead to? That will lead to not only that the top men in the ED have a field day when it comes to politicians, but people lower down.
Let Pinky Anand respond to your charge that these are sweeping powers which can be misused not just in high-profile cases, Pinky Anand, but in not so high-profile cases as well, and the charge that the agency is more active against members of the opposition and completely inactive against those who are in the BJP?
Rahul, I think these kind of wide arguments that are made or propositions that are made challenging, let us say, an act which has been made to prevent something which is a heinous crime, something which affects the country, something which is illicit in its nature, and to say that it is used one way or the other, or that it is wide, I mean, all laws that take into account drastic activities, such as, I would include terrorism, such as security, such as the proceeds of PMLA, etc., are normally utilized towards fairly ill-gotten kind of situations. So the whole question here is of tracing, putting to rest, recovering back, and ensuring that the money doesn't go into the wrong hands. And for this purpose, if you have an act, and you are today judging, and there is a judgment on that, basically which holds that it is constitutional, I mean the anxiety that people seem to have will always be there. You know, you will always find similar objections against any of the laws that relate to anti-terrorism, that relate to anti-drugs, that relates to other provisions of similar nature. So therefore these kind of apprehensions cannot be allayed. You know, what is the argument always made? This is too draconian, it is too wide sweeping, it can be misutilized. Of course, law can always be misutilized. But does that mean you don't have a law? Does that mean you don't recover the ill-gotten gains? Does that mean you don't attach in pursuance of law simply because somebody's unknowingly bought it? As Sanjay was saying, somebody unknowingly buys a property, doesn't know it is tainted. It is tainted, it has to be attached, it has to be confiscated, action has to be taken. The question of what are the consequences from illegality, you can't allow that to prevail further. Somewhere down the line, there has to be a balancing act, and that is what ultimately has been considered in the judgment.
No, but according to data put out by the government in the
Section 3,
Parliament,
Section 45 bail.
But Pinky Anand, according to government data in Parliament, overall the ED has filed 992 prosecution complaints, resulting so far in the conviction of 23 accused people under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The opposition says, look at the conviction rates. Are many of these cases fishing expeditions against the accused? How do you respond to the charge by the opposition?
Rahul, do you know what the conviction rate in the country is vis-a-vis general crime? Is it much higher than 20%? So simply because we keep bringing out these figures, what happens with the conviction and what happens with the process of law is something that we need to sweep out of the carpet and to take action on that. Not to say because there are fewer convictions under PMLA as it stands, though frankly it's no comparison, any comparison to CRPC and other normal offences would show that there is a general problem in this respect of conviction. But the question is not only conviction, the question is of taking action during the pendency of illegal action. The question is of attaching the property. The question is of confiscating the property. Acquittal and convictions by themselves are a different basis altogether.
Let me put that same question to Colonel Singh. You've been in the ED and you would be best placed to answer this question. A total of 3,985 cases. Out of those prosecution complaints in 992 cases, convictions only against 23 accused under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. You've also been in the special cell. We've looked at normal policing. Why is it that the conviction rate is so low? Is it, Pinky Anand makes the point that it's low per se, but this seems a very particularly low percentage.
Rahul, let me explain you one thing. What is conviction rate? Conviction rate is based on number of cases decided. And out of those decided cases, in how many cases the persons have been convicted and in how many cases persons have been acquitted. Now, the 23 cases have been decided of the ED. So you have to find out in how many cases of 23 the persons have been convicted. And I have calculated it. The conviction rate in ED is almost touching to the 90%.
How? It's 2.3%. If I take 23 as a percentage of 992, it's 2.3%.
No, you don't take conviction rate on the basis of number of cases are being tried. You take conviction rate on the basis of number of cases decided. So if that way you will go, so many cases are pending in the courts of the other types of crime. They don't come under the conviction rate. So
no, I don't understand. What's the difference? If a total of 3,985 cases have been filed, there are prosecution complaints in 992 cases. Conviction is 23, that's 2.3%.
That is not conviction rate. Conviction rate is based on number of cases decided, not number of cases being tried. Number of cases decided are just 23.
Sanjay Hegde, now I've heard this from senior officers in the ED at current as well. They're saying, and Pinky Anand alludes to that point, look at conviction rate per se. A, you're calculating it wrong. You can't divide. You have to divide on the basis of number of cases decided, not on the basis of overall number of cases. And B, conviction rate per se in India is low, and that is true for all laws.
Well, let's put it this way. If you have had only 23 cases decided in the last 8 or 10 years, then what exactly has the Enforcement Directorate been doing about it?
See,
and conviction, please sir, let me complete. And conviction rate is based ultimately upon the number of prosecutions launched. How many convictions did you get? Now, if you want to keep shifting the goalposts, it's neither here nor there. My point against this law is not only the overbroadness when it comes to attachment of property, it is also the ability to just arrest anyone. The Supreme Court has today upheld several provisions which are not applicable even in normal law and not even with regard to the Drugs Act. Even in the NDPS, some of these provisions have been struck down. But today, to get over that, the government made an amendment and the amendment has been upheld today by this court. I would really sincerely think that this is a judgment which at some future date will be reviewed by the same court.
No, but the fact, Adil Singh Boparai, is a lot of these changes which the Congress is now complaining about were actually introduced by then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram, who made the law much more stringent than it was. Now Chidambaram himself, his family and others in the Congress are bearing the brunt of it. You are the ones who made these changes.
Well, that's not correct, Mr. Kanwal. The mantra of this government is that you show me the face and I will show you the rule. I'm again reiterating. You show me the face and I will show you the rule. Now, more stringent the law, the greater is the need of necessary safeguards. Now, let me just delve into what the Supreme Court has said. Now, under the PMLA, you have something called the Appellate Authority, which is a judicial body which is manned by former judges and which overlooks confiscation, investigation, seizure, etc. Now, since September 2019, please put this question to Mr. Kanwal, to Mr. Kohli. Since September 2019, this body is redundant. It is defunct. There has to be some judicial overview.
There's no judge appointed there.
And number two, the problem today is malicious and misuse of agencies. And it's very convenient for the BJP to say that, well, this is a happy coincidence. I am sorry. Was it a happy coincidence even in Mukul Roy's case? Was it a happy coincidence even in the multiple cases which we are hearing from Karnataka?
No, let's take Mukul Roy's case, Nalin Kohli, as an example. When he was in the Trinamool, your former colleague as a spokesperson and now UP Minister Siddharth Singh used to say, Bhag Mukul Bhag, CBI aati. This is when he was in charge of West Bengal. Then he joined the BJP. Suddenly nothing happened against him. All this while, no real action in any real sense against Mukul Roy. Now Mukul Roy may be switching over. He's announced that he's switching over. It's not happened technically, but essentially he's coming back to the Trinamool. Now again there are demands being made of action being taken against him. Adil Singh Boparai says, show me the person, I'll show you the rule.
Yeah, so let's answer the charge. The charge is that the Congress party is faced with an identity and a serious problem. Their Shakti Peeth is the Nehru Gandhi family, which has no answers for the AGL case and the National Herald case in which they are out on bail, which precedes the formation of the BJP government. Till date, there is not a credible answer. There is everything under the sun and everything possible under the sun except a straight answer. If there is no crime, you have a straight answer, direct to the facts. These are the facts, this is my answer, these are the documents, the matter closes. You put it out in the media, you do a press conference, you show it and you close the matter. Instead of that, you have a jalebi answer. इधर से ले जाओ, उधर से ले जाओ, उस पे सवाल उठा दो, इस पे सवाल उठा दो, बीजेपी की credibility पे करो. How does that remove the fact that there is corruption or at least perceived corruption on which there is no answer by the Nehru Gandhi family? That is the problem. So you start then creating a counter narrative to say, oh, the BJP, under the BJP, the ED does that. Then when you show 10 examples that 20 crores is found, then you say, no, but what about in this case when he was first here? Stop changing the rules of the game. Answer the basic problem that you are, or the Congress party, is anguished. They have no credible answer to the Nehru Gandhi problem in the...
Now here is the problem, Adil Singh Boparai.
Now let's come to Sanjay Hegde ji.
Yes.
Sanjay Hegde ji, 1 minute.
Let Nalin complete.
To Mr. Sanjay Hegde.
Let Nalin complete.
Mr. Sanjay Hegde, 1 minute, let me complete. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, as a colleague of mine in the court, comes up with another ingenious argument. In the batch of 240 cases, he says they are ordinary people. Now, Karti Chidambaram is one of the people who agitated this case forcefully. Since when he is ordinary? So, Mr. Sanjay Hegde can build a case to put it as if he is not. He has equal political leanings as I do. He may not be formally in a party. He is entitled to, and that has to be respected. There is no problem. He doesn't have to be a supporter of me or my party. He can be a supporter of someone else. But the end of the day is, in a judgment, After 500 pages is written, the politicization of the act has to stop. You have a problem, there are remedies under the act, outside the act, before the court. But you can't run down the act, its purpose and the functioning of the agency because it doesn't suit an argument.
Okay, I'm out of time. Sanjay Hegde has his finger up. It was also a direct charge at him, so I'll let him respond and then go around and wrap up.
No, let me answer one thing about my political leanings. I don't lean in favor of any party, but I certainly lean away from the ruling party. That's the extent of my politics. But that's irrelevant to the question of whether this harsh law is constitutional or not. I say that even in the NDPS, there are similar provisions have been struck down. But now with regard to money laundering, the Supreme Court has upheld it. I think there is a logic error, and I do think that this is a judgment which will go down as badly as the 1976 judgment of ADM Jabalpur, which got overturned by its own children.
Okay, Adil, very quickly.
Mr. Kanwal, the BJP has weaponized the Enforcement Directorate.
I need to get up.
I think this is the bitter fact which the BJP cannot run away from. And let me respond. Why is the appellate authority under the PMLA still vacant for over 2 years? Isn't that a necessary safeguard? Isn't that a supervisory mechanism to oversee how the ED is functioning? And the Supreme Court has categorically lamented. They have urged the executive to fill up these vacancies. So this demonstrates how the
Let Pinky Anand respond as we wrap up. The appellate tribunal under PMLA lying unmanned for more than 2 years, showing that there is now no supervision. Yes, go ahead, Pinky Anand.
To my guests. With due respect to my other colleagues.
Sorry, Rahul.
Yes, Pinky Anand.
Rahul, with due respect to everything, the position is if there are vacancies, they haven't been filled in, doesn't mean the remedy is not there. One. Secondly, it should be filled up, that's another matter. Thirdly, you have the court available, that's why you are here before the Supreme Court today. And the Supreme Court ultimately upholds a law which is meant to guide the due process of life for ordinary citizens in the country. And then we have a grievance. So there's no point in crying wolf at every time. Whenever laws come around which protect integrity, security, and nation's money and assets and all kinds of proceeds of crime which are otherwise being taken away, I think this kind of parent argument comes. But the question is, has it been held? Is it constitutional? It has been.
Okay, we've had some very fine quality arguments on both sides of this divide. Sanjay Hegde saying it's good that there are more cases, it's good for the legal community, but it's also problematic for those against whom these cases are being filed. You've heard opinions on both sides. As always, I leave it to you, our viewers, to decide who you think carried the day. We don't play judge and jury. We leave it to you to decide in the People's Court who you think had the more compelling argument.